Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict. This is Pat, your host, and I run the channel Please Rewind, the best movie channel on YouTube. You know it, I know it, we all know it. Don't subscribe to Screen Junkies, just saying. Okay. I'm gonna throw that out there. I don't care. The Screen Junkies fans have been coming after my Andy video, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. You guys, just leave. like I don't need the Screen Junkies fan base, the rabid teenage fan base who wants to hear boring conversations about movies. I just don't care. I'm not here for them. But welcome to Box Office Addict, the show where I'm trying not to talk trash about other people, where we break down the weekend box office numbers. We talk about the marketing. We talk about the what the studio gets back, the distribution fees and all that. It costs a lot to make a movie. It costs a lot to release a movie. And you got to pay actors, and there's back end, and studios split the cost between each other. It's really ridiculous. Oh, it's on. It's so on right now. It's on like Donkey Kong. It's on like 1984 right now. And I don't mean Orville. I mean like Orville. Orwell. I don't mean like Orwell. Orville's that show with Seth MacFarlane, the Star Trek show, but it's not Orwell 1984. It's like actual 1984. You know, like with the year that Gremlins came out and all that. Stranger Things season 2 1984. Arcade games 1984. That's my kind of 1984. Isn't it weird? Like he writes a book 1984 and it's like, you know, one of the darkest books ever and it's really scary. But the actual year 1984 wasn't that bad. It's a pretty fun year, really. Actuality, the actual 1984 is pretty cool. 2001 was nothing like 2001. I don't think Blade Runner and 2019 are going to match up. I'm not feeling it. I don't think the flying cars are coming. I don't think we're going to have replicants unless the technology really speeds up in the next couple of years. 2015 Back to the Future Part 2, that was disappointing. I was expecting a lot more future. We got kind of close. Like, we weren't too far off from that movie. That was probably the closest in a lot of ways. Even so, that movie's not... Even now, I could see the future of Back to the Future Part 2 not that far away. Some of the things about that movie. But I could be wrong. Who knows? Anyway, Box Office Addict is a live stream podcast show, whatever you call it, where we just, a bunch of us box office addicts, people who like looking at the numbers and all that, not just looking at the top five and giving our little opinions on it, going back and forth, and giving you the generic, you know, headline on Hollywood Reporter or whatnot. You know, I'd like to open up multiple conversations here. Why did the film do badly? Was it marketing? Or maybe it just wasn't the kind of film that has a large reach or something like that. We almost had hoverboards. We did almost have hoverboards. But hey, we had the hovercraft back in Johnny Quest back in the 60s. That didn't really pan out either. So, anyway, by the way, the music at the beginning was Historian Expert by Sharkfoot. I love you said somebody already disliked the video, so somebody disliked the video before it started. I'm sure they clicked on it wanting to hear, like, box office stuff, and they probably clicked on it and heard this music and was like, ugh. But I don't know, I'll say it again, this is a live stream, like, podcast show. This is not a video where I'm just, like, breaking down the top 10 weekend box office numbers. It's like a free-form radio show where I talk about whatever I really want and go in tangents, and then I come back to the box office. And we spend a lot of time on, like, one movie. We'll spend, like, the number one movie, we usually spend 20 minutes or something like that. Frasier, man, I missed you, dude. I'm glad you made it. Oh my god, this is crazy. It's so good to see you again. But, yeah, this is just different, man. It's like, I don't live stream much, and I don't do shows like this, so... I don't care if people dislike it. You get dislikes on every video. But, you know, just so people know, if they don't quite get the format, this is me just kind of, you know, bull crapping, BSing, I guess would sound better. BSing a bunch of stuff for like an hour and a half to entertain people and communicate with my subscribers who I don't get to talk to a lot and just answer questions and stuff like that. But I also like talking about the box office, so I guess we should get into that. Considering we're already like 5 minutes in, and I've just been going on about random bull crap, random BS. Hold on, random BS. That sounds better. Okay, Cars 3. $378 million worldwide, $175 million budget, marketing budget probably very big, but we all know, that movie was all about the merchandise. Pixar probably made $1 billion off that movie. The first Cars film, I think, sold $10 billion in merchandise or something like that. It was great. It was like Star Wars numbers. So Disney, people don't seem to realize when Disney's not just making the money up front at the box office or with home video sales, they're making the money selling toys and backpacks and all that stuff. Bill Nye Science Guy, what the hell is this? Is it a documentary? PBS distribution. I don't know what this is. I guess they made a documentary about Bill Nye. Did not know. Okay, so, geez, gotta move up a little bit. I don't want to talk about Wind River again and all that. A lot of these movies are not worth talking about. They're past their prime, and there's no new money coming. Like Hitman's Bodyguard, I guess it's not going to add much more than this 176. $30 million budget, though. Probably didn't spend too much on marketing. I'm sure a lot of this budget went to the actors because the movie looked kind of cheap. But still, 176 million worldwide. That's one of Gosling's better. Gosling, I said Gosling and Reynolds. I'm just like Brie Larson. She puts up on Twitter, because last year Ryan Reynolds, for his wife's birthday, he's like, "Happy birthday to my beautiful wife," and it was just a picture of them, and she was cut out of it, and it was just him. So this year for his birthday, she put a picture up of him with Ryan Gosling, and she cut Ryan out and just left Gosling in the photo. So, even his wife gets, sorry, I got Gosling on the book. It's one of Ryan Reynolds' more successful movies. It's like the Chris's, man. Chris Pine, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans. There's just too many. It's like all these blonde Chris's, these dirty blonde Chris guys that are handsome and they're in movies and superhero movies. There's too many of them. The great Chris Jericho, of course. I saw Chris Jericho a couple times. I used to go to wrestling. I saw him a couple times. He was a cool looking dude, I guess. American Assassin. Oh, finally some more international box office. $24 million foreign, $60 million worldwide on a $33 million budget. I doubt they've broke even on this or made a lot because you have to include marketing. This didn't have a good opening weekend. They probably didn't get a big return on this. The studios in the first 2 weeks get a bigger return, like 80%, and then it gets smaller as it goes on to where they're getting like 30% as the weeks go on. But this movie really didn't hold very well or make a lot of money up front. So I don't think anyone made money off this film except for the people who got paid to make the movie, which, of course, nothing wrong with Michael Keaton getting a paycheck. No complaints here. But that's upsetting. I feel like that film could have done a little bit better. Maybe it was the release date. Do we think the release date's the issue? I'm wondering. Coco? Couple of cold ones? Oh, the Pixar movie Coco. That's right. I'm just Zack Schneeder. It's always Zack Schneeder. He's always up to something. He's my nemesis. He's always here trying to interrupt my show. Despicable Me 3, $80 million budget, $1 billion, $29 million worldwide. But let's talk about the international box office of these Illumination films, which is with Universal and all that, right? $766 million. Okay, now if you look at the director's other films in this franchise, it's that international box, $600 million on the second film. God, what was Minions international box? It was crazy. $823 million just at the foreign box. Yeah, that's insane. I mean, the domestic totals are great, and the merchandise sells, and this franchise is relevant, and I think it's the Shrek of today, because Shrek kind of did these numbers when you adjust ticket price inflation. Shrek 2 in particular made a lot of money. But it is weird looking at this. It's kind of like, wow, like a lot of people around the world really like the Minions and Despicable Me. I don't know what it is. They hit with some audiences. Reffin any day of the week. Did you ever give the whole Weinstein thing a talking over? I didn't do the Weinstein. I did a video on Andy Signor that had a lot of sarcasm in it and dry humor that was clearly what it was, and it was obvious, and people still think for some reason that video is literal and serious. I have to tell people daily, like... And I'm not saying it was satire. It was sarcasm. I'm not saying, oh, I was being satirical. Like, I was clearly making fun of types of people and how they were reacting to that. But some people seem to think I was, damn it, Korea. But I just want to clarify in that video for anyone who asks if they think a lot of my videos I am being sarcastic. And that video in particular, because of how awful the things were, the accusations, and how tragic it was, I tried to find humor in the situation. So pretty much everything I did in that video, um, where I made fun of other people, I said things about other people, I acted a certain way. It was all done in humor and a sarcasm to make fun of all the reactions of extremism from people on both sides. Like, there's some people who, it's like, hey, Andy Signor, he's bad. We need to shut this down. We don't like Harvey Weinstein. I totally agree. But then there was other people like, hey, let's blame everyone else. Every man's at fault, right? And that's what I was doing in the video. I was blaming Max Landis. I was blaming Dan and them and Spencer. I wasn't actually blaming them and going after them. I was just doing that as a joke because some people were doing that. Every man was evil all of a sudden. Everyone at Screen Junkies was bad. I was making fun of that, and I even said it very dryly. I was even kind of like, oh wow, white male privilege is amok at this place. What have these guys done to get their jobs? That was a lot of it was a joke. And I just want to clarify that for people who don't know. Some people seem to think I did that video like as an attack on all these people, and I wasn't doing that at all. I was making fun of like SJWs and all that with that. I wasn't trying to be one. I was making fun of them. But I certainly am happy to see the fall of Hollywood and a lot of these big actors and stars that I've had issues with for years and heard stories about, and I always thought people didn't seem to care. I've hated the hypocrisy, the moral grandizing that Hollywood's been doing for decades. Decades this has been going on. And here's the issue. If these were still the great men and women of the heyday of Hollywood, maybe I'll give them a pass. If they were Jimmy Stewart and Gregory Peck and Humphrey Bogart and Henry Fonda, if they were those people, if they were as is there a chance that we'll ever see Pat Ryerke again? Yes, there is a chance you will definitely see Pat Ryerke again. He is not dead. He is definitely not dead. And little bits of him still come out if you actually watch every video. There's still little, I didn't go, I'm not politically correct now because it's Please Rewind. I still, I talked about White Dog. I'm still doing the stuff I want to do. It's just not me as much discussing the politics and all that. I just feel like the political conversation got oversaturated and too many people had an opinion, and it became, it just got crazy. I started to get threats in my real life over my content, and I'm not kidding. I got threats, like people were threatening me with violence and so on in my real life because of doing the patriarchy, and a lot of my life was getting affected by it. I basically couldn't talk to people anymore about what I was doing. I couldn't. I mean, literally outside of maybe a few people in my family and a couple friends, it was almost ruining my life because anyone who found out I was doing it immediately labeled me like this one thing, like I had to be a white supremacist or a racist or a bigot or a Nazi, and people started coming after me, and my stuff started to get flagged. And it was a lot of harassment. I basically started to get harassed a lot, and people were finding out who I really was. They were finding out my real identity. They were attacking me on Facebook. They were coming after me, and that just got a little too crazy. And not just that, but like the content wasn't growing. I was putting a lot of time into it. Man, it's not just friends. I mean people, random people. I'm not talking about just friends. Random people were doing this. Like people out of nowhere were coming after me like crazy, and it was freaking me out. Because I wasn't a big... I'm not Sargon or Dave Rubin or one of those guys, or Milo or Ben Shapiro. I don't have a big following. I was very small and kind of under the radar, but that might have been why more people came after me. I didn't have the support, but it just got a little creepy. Like people were talking about exposing all my private information on Reddit, and it was getting into stuff that was I found illegal. It was starting to really freak me out, and I just got sick of the threats and the flagging on every video, and people putting flags on your comments if you guys left comments. I was just worried my channel was going to get shut down. That was basically my fear. I was fearing like I was going to be AIU and they were going to shut down the channel. Some people think I did it because of the video demonetization, but that's not what it is. I don't care. My videos still don't get monetized for the most part. My videos still don't get the money from YouTube. Still doesn't give me the green. But yeah, out of nowhere. I guess that's right. They probably weren't out of nowhere. They're probably people that were watching me for a while. No, it's just people. It was just it was getting rough. But the main thing is just that I wish YouTube was a platform where you could talk about whatever you want. Um, I'm kind of a movie channel, movie news channel, media channel. Yeah, a lot of people come here from JonTron. JonTron, I'm the last channel that JonTron subscribed to a few months ago. I don't know what video he watched. My stuff used to be more political. I think JonTron probably watched a political video when I was the Patriarchy, because he clearly agrees with me on a lot of things politically. Um, but I don't know. Basically, if you want to know, oh wow, which I like your name by the way. It's kind of a movie blog channel, movie review channel. We talk about the box office, but it's more freeform. Like it's not like I don't have it all structured. It's just kind of like this all the time. It's just talking, bringing people on for conversations, like podcasts with video occasionally. But we do blogs and other stuff like that. I'm gonna start doing a vlog and more stuff like that. I'm just gonna do more video lately. Like I did that sleepaway camp thing and had some video. Um, yeah, he subbed to me like 5 months ago. I don't know what video it was. I still haven't been able to figure it out. If you go to JonTron's channel and you click channels, I'm at the top, and all the time people come and they're like, "Hey, I came over here from JonTron. I don't know what JonTron liked. I don't know what video he found. It could be anything. I did a video where I talked about him at one point, but I don't think it was that video. It could have been the Smugly Puff though. It could have been the Alien Covenant video. The list really goes on. I had a lot of videos that did well, so he could have found me in any video. But it is cool. It is cool to have one of the bigger YouTubers subscribe to you. And it's great that he has me on his channel. Like when you go to his channel, you can see it's not hard to find me. So that's pretty cool. So he apparently liked what I was doing. You know. It'd be funny to think if JonTron was like watching. He watches this stuff and all that. He's here all the time. He's a secret fan. Oh, dude, good. Watching Sleepaway Camp. Good person. Good on ya. Couldn't recommend that trilogy more. So underrated. Nobody talks about it, man. You only hear about it from horror fans, but when you actually find Sleepaway Camp, I introduced it to a friend of mine recently, Alan, who's a big horror guy, big B movie schlock guy, and he had asked me about it. He said, "Is it worth getting?" And I recommended. I basically told him my video where I told him about Angela and why I like the trilogy and the continuity and the satire. He bought it. He loves it. He's buying merchandise now. He's buying shirts and stuff. Like, so I'm happy. Like that's making money. People are actually going out and getting Sleepaway Camp stuff because of my recommendation. And that's not because of me. That's because of the quality of those films. Those are really good movies. And people should be talking about them. You watch Mindhunter yet? No, I'm getting through Stranger Things Season 2. And I'm on the last, 3 episodes. So I don't have time to watch Mindhunter yet. But I am going to watch Mindhunter because of David Fincher. So don't get me wrong. Oh, dude, I love Final Fantasy X. Same thing. Titus does feel unnecessary. Totally agree. Cut Titus out of that game. It's a much better game. Focus on Orin and Yuna and that dynamic and make that story much better. Great combat system in that game. I think it's very streamlined. I don't think you have to grind too much in 10. I think the graphics still hold up. The soundtrack's one of the absolute best. I like a lot about that game. It's a good game. It's challenging but rewarding simultaneously instead of leaning too much on the grind or too much on rewarding you. That game I thought was very well balanced. Some people don't think it was. I still play Final Fantasy X sometimes for a PS2 game. That game's aged, I think, really well. It still plays good. I was glad when you brought up White Dog. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of all time too. Yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful movie, man. It's funny because that's one like Sleepaway Camp I recommend for entertainment value and comedy. But when you actually watch White Dog, it's a pretty powerful movie. It actually really affects you and gets underneath. It actually really hits you. I don't think people are expecting that. There's a lot of emotional gut punches in White Dog. It's not just it's not. I mean, it's multiple things. Fuller never settled for making one kind of movie, but White Dog actually has a message that I think has such clarity. It's like getting punched in the face in a, it's a sucker punch. You're like, oh my God, and it hurts, but it should hurt. Those kind of punches should hurt by those kind of artists who have something to say. But Let's see. But who will white straight males with insecurities about their fathers identify with them? By the way, your thing about Stranger Things, about the nods not being as subtle, I agree. I haven't finished the season, so I'm not going to give my review yet, but I'll give you guys a hint. I do have issues with this season of Stranger Things. The first season, if you go watch my review for that way back in the day, I just praised it and talked about how much, and I still love the first season of Stranger Things, but I'm having some issues with season 2. Nothing major, still very entertaining and good. I'm not saying it's bad, and I haven't finished it. It's got payoff, I'm assuming. But the first half of it, I definitely get what you mean. I noticed the stuff that they were referencing a lot more this season, and I felt like the tones and all that, a lot of that stuff was a lot more in your face than it was before, and there was a lot less plot, which was another issue I had. There was a lot less plot driving the story to have quick pacing and plot twists. Instead, it's a lot of, hey, let's do John Carpenter meets John Hughes in this episode, and let's do jump scares and do more horror and less of that Spielberg thing we were doing, which is fine, and they're kind of trying to do The Mist, also Stephen King's The Mist, but I'm not sure if it works as well or if the Duffers are as good at that as they were with doing the Spielberg thing they did in the first season. I think the E.T. Goonies, those elements may work better for them than a lot of James Cameron this season too, a lot of Aliens, a lot of stuff from Aliens, and that stuff felt a little bit, I don't know. I don't dislike it. It's just like, if you've seen Aliens or something like that, it's just a little too familiar for my taste. I felt like I was a little on the nose with the Alien stuff. It's like, hey guys, I like James Cameron too, but Jesus. Like, and I can deal with Paul Reiser. Put Paul Reiser anywhere. And is Sean Astin, oh my god, yes. Yes. Finally. Somebody give Sean Astin that role that he's been needing for years. I need to get back to the box office though, Jesus. Okay, Jay, not worth talking about. Killing of a Sacred Deer, not worth talking about yet. No real impact at the box office. Goodbye, Christopher Robin. Isn't doing terrible, but not great either. It's in 213 theaters. And this weekend it did 330,000. That's a 115% improvement, which isn't bad at all, really. That film might end up doing all right with a little bit of time. Okay, let's move up. The Florida Project, very acclaimed, low-budget film. Made $2 million. I don't think they spent anything on that movie. It only had a 10% drop, so that's pretty good. My Little Pony, the movie, 945,000. 43 million worldwide. The budget of this film was 8 million, so they probably broke even, made a little bit of money, but I don't think. It's like I said last week, these TV adaptations into movies, they don't usually make money unless it's something that's really huge, that's really part of the zeitgeist and the culture, like The Simpsons was, or Rugrats. Rugrats was huge. Rugrats was one of the biggest shows on TV when it was on. My Little Pony isn't. It has a devoted fan base, but like the Powerpuff Girls movie, or a lot of those films, they only have so many people who watch it, and a lot of it's kids. It's like when the Power Rangers movie came out. Everyone thought that was going to be a big hit. That film was, a lot of people were estimating it was going to make $100 million because, man, it's the Power Rangers. Of course, that movie. And it didn't do that great. It made like 30 million domestic, I think, and like 65 worldwide. It did wrong. The budget was like 12 million. And I'm talking the old Power Rangers movie, not the new Power. I'm talking like TV show getting a movie, not a TV show being adapted into a film. This is like, the Power Rangers movie was the characters from the TV show and the actors, with big budget special effects and all that. For their kind of show, not big budget special effects in comparison. Although I think the special effects in the Power Rangers movies, there are good ones. Ivan Ooze is a pretty good effect. But that movie, it wasn't this huge hit. It didn't do that great. It did good because it didn't cost a lot and it killed on home video. But, that just showed you that there was only so many people that were willing to go see a Power Rangers movie based off that show. And that's all it is. There's a limited audience for a lot of things. Even Legos. Here we are with the Lego Ninjago movie. You have the Lego Batman movie. With that, you have Batman, right? So you have a huge fan base. And then with the Lego movie, you have Star Wars jokes and Batman jokes and superheroes. They're all in it. And you have a lot of variety of movies, and you have a hook with it that it's the Lego movie, and if you go see the movie, there's a plot twist, and Lego Batman's a spinoff. What I think hurt this movie is ninjas aren't that big. Ninja movies don't do well. Name me a ninja movie that made like hundreds of millions of dollars. Name me a big hit. There isn't one. There's not a big hit ninja movie. People, they're either low budget movies or they're filmed from the East that got big over here, or it's in a video game or comic book or something. I can't think of like, even think about Ninja Assassin, how that bombed. People don't really like ninja stuff. I don't know if this was, I think it was this idea. I don't think ninjas are in right now like they were. You know how pirates kind of were this off and on again thing in popularity, and the Pirates of the Caribbean happened and everything got big again. That's how I feel about. I don't think ninjas have really become a thing. I mean, I know Daredevil has the ninjas and all that in the Yakuza, but I think that's what hurt the Lego Ninjago movie is that it's isn't it? It's like a TV thing with ninjas, and I don't think it has the broad appeal at all. There's no broad appeal to it. Oh yeah, of course it'll make its money from the merchandise. Pat, what's your opinion on Mother and Lawrence taking her hiatus? Jesus. Well, Mother is. I'm trying to think of a analogy or some comparison to make that might make some sense, so I don't have to over-explain it and go into detail. I'd say Mother, in a lot of ways, is if I was let's compare him to another filmmaker. Let's say David Lynch, even though he's just a wannabe David Lynch, he doesn't even come close. But let's say David Lynch. What is Mother? If that maybe it's his Wild at Heart, or his Inland Empire. In Aronofsky context, not saying it's as good as David Lynch's work, not at all. But like it's his, I don't know, it's his Dogville, you know. I'm not a fan of that kind of movie. It's when it's completely allegorical and esoteric, and I don't mean like Jodorowsky or a lot of directors I do love that do stuff like that. I mean the way when it's that. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but it's a director trying to be very distinct and be an auteur and be like, this is my vision. It's very sensationalist. It's very much got all the it's everything. It's got the biblical references. It's about Mother Nature. It's about the climate. It's about how we treat women. It's about Aronofsky, the artist, about who he is, how he treats people in past relationships, how he's treated women, how he feels about himself. All that jazz did this, right? Bob Fosse. But All That Jazz is a terrific movie on top of that, right? It's a film that works as a film while also being about this guy's life and who he is. It's one of my favorite films. It in a lot of ways it's brilliant because it's so much something of him that he would make and how he would even view himself and discuss himself, but also it's so raw and honest at the same time. But he never settles for not making a really entertaining, well-crafted movie like he did. But it's different. Movies, or when he made Lenny, when he made the film on Lenny Bruce with Dustin Hoffman. That's a certain kind of movie. I like those. That's kind of what Mother is in a way, but about Aronofsky himself and art in a way. My problem is this is basically Mother's at the equivalent of going to see a one-man show where the guy sits there and basically does that. It's just him on the stage doing all this, which I'm a big fan of. Eric Bogosian and all that, and John Leguizamo did that. I'm a fan of that style, the one-man show, but I don't think that is Aronofsky's strengths. I think his strengths are as a cinematic storyteller, when he uses camera tricks and editing and a certain type of flow to really make his because the stories are never the standout things in his movies. I don't think the story of Requiem for a Dream or The Wrestler or any of those films are unique or amazing on their own. It's the way he tells those stories that are unique and interesting as a filmmaker. Pi is very well is made in a very unique, original way. The problem with Mother is it's like it relies so much on its subtext and themes and so much about what is going on underneath the surface that as a film, I don't even think it really registers. I don't even know if I could call it a movie. I don't even know if it's a work. Like, to me, it's just subtext and allegory on the front. It's just your art house thing, and I've seen directors do that much better. That comes from I've seen Bergman. I mean, if you want to do persona, Bergman, it's two people in a room, two women in a room talking for most of the movie. And it's got all this subtext and things going on underneath and all these shots that have meaning and the depth of this women's conversation. I'm fine with that. But when all you have is referencing or breaking down things from other places like the Mother Nature or the Bible or your own self, your own bullshit in your head that Aronofsky clearly has, or your regrets about how maybe he treated his ex-wife, I don't think that's enough to hold together a film. I don't think it's really a film. I think it's more just a painting, which people say about David Lynch, and that's fine. Paintings are that way. They're just a feeling. They're just a canvas with feelings put on there, and you bring interpretation, and the artist tries to bring these abstract things through. But as for me, as a painting, if I was in the art gallery and I saw Aronofsky's painting of Mother, which would probably be that image of Lawrence holding her heart out looking at you, I'd probably go, I've seen it before. Okay. That's his painting to me. It doesn't stand out in the art gallery. It blends in almost painfully so, to where it almost feels like that was the point he was trying to make at some point, that I'm not interesting and original, so why do I keep trying to be? Which I think is, I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving Aronofsky enough credit. Maybe he just crapped on himself for 2 hours and I just found it boring. I have to watch Mother again. I've only seen Mother once, so I don't know what to tell you guys. There isn't enough to go into. I don't think the people at Collider are bad. I like them better than Screen Junkies. What's my favorite movie of the year so far? Dunkirk, easily. Best movie of the year so far I've seen. Blade Runner 2049 would be right up there, but I don't like it as much. I don't think it's as good as I don't think it's as good as Dunkirk, but it has more flaws for me. And but so far Dunkirk, until I see some, I'm expecting Paul Thomas Anderson's film Phantom Thread to be high up on my list, but I just haven't seen that many great movies this year. I don't think it's been a good year for movies. I saw Your Movie Suck right on Twitter, that this was like the best year for movies in a while, and I was like, what? And he was talking about, I'm like, dude, I guess we feel different, because I didn't like Baby Driver as much as he did. I thought that movie was like a 7. I didn't like Mother as much as he did. He has a right to his opinion, but he was saying how, I was like, man, I think it's just been a year of disappointments, and films that have good first acts that don't come together. I felt that way about a lot of the movies this year that was good first acts and no payoff. Yeah. I like how we're all just into Pat talking, not taking in the comments. Is it just me, or did Snyder's Watchmen seem almost celebratory of violence as opposed to the... Yes, of course, because he doesn't get how to do that stuff. He just doesn't. I mean, and I'm not trying to talk bad about Zack Snyder. I know everyone gets mad that I hate on Snyder. I'll probably review Mother, so I need to see it again. I don't want to review that movie off one viewing. I feel like that's unfair. And it isn't out on Blu-ray, and I'm not going to pay to go watch that movie again. I'm not. I just don't want to go see it in the theater again. But I will watch it at home where I can pause it and spend time with it. And I would like to do an in-depth review, because I wouldn't just like to criticize it for obvious reasons. I'd really like to break the movie down piece by piece, and really give a constructive criticism to Aronofsky if I could, and to people who maybe don't get why some people don't like this movie, or are just blind. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people are hating on this movie. It didn't do well, and it didn't get great reviews. But I think some people are going to argue that in 10, 20 years this film's going to age and people are going to see it as the masterpiece it is. But I don't think we live in that same age anymore. We have the internet now. We can break these things down. I mean, I don't disagree, but like, God, that's like, yeah, because 2015 and 2016 suck. 2017's great now. I've just been feeling a decline, man. And I've been feeling a big decline. Just in movies in general, every year now, there's less movies I like. I remember it used to be a few years ago, I had a hard time even making like a top 10 list, because there was a lot of good movies. How do you feel about the huge investment by Netflix in the original anime? I think investing in the original anime is a good idea. The movie thing's going to take a while to pay off to get the money back on them. But the anime thing makes sense because of how hardcore anime fans are. That's what's crazy. Turn-based combat with 15 and turn-based combat really outdated. I don't know. I mean, that depends on who you're asking what outdated is. If somebody still likes something, Cuphead's a bunch of old stuff. It's just Contra. Have you seen Jaden Smith's masterpiece, Neo Yokio? No, I haven't, but I need to see. Oh, is it that anime? Yeah, my friend told me to watch that. 2016 had The Handmaiden, Train to Busan, the Wailing, Godzilla. Oh, Shin Godzilla. I was reading that as one thing. That makes sense. And A Hero. Granted, those are Asian, though. Yeah, you sound like a fan of the Asian cinema. I didn't even see 2 of those movies. I know about them. I saw The Handmaiden, which is amazing, and Godzilla. But I didn't see all of those. Um, I thought 2016 was an okay year for movies. I can't remember everything I liked last year, but I don't think it was a bad year for movies. The one 2015, I remember having some good films like God, I love that people are trying to say to me that because I brought up loopers filled with plot holes, and the guy said, "Yeah, but that's just because of time travel." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's Ryan Johnson's fault for writing a time travel story where he focused on plot." Like he brought up Terminator, and the guy brought up Terminator. A lot of people have been bringing it up, and they're like, "Well, Terminator has plot holes," and they're like, "So does Back to the Future." I go, "Yeah, but the time travel's secondary in those movies. The main focus is the characters and adventure. Looper is almost driven by the intricate time travel." And that makes the movie more convoluted and the plot holes stand out more. You don't think about the plot holes in Back to the Future because that's not what the movie's about. It's the existential question of him meeting his parents. Looper doesn't really focus on the existential. It focuses on the way he goes about killing the guys with the time loop, and there's even little plot holes. It doesn't make sense why they burn the bodies the way they do, why they have the looper shoot them. The way it's even thought out is convoluted and poor. Like at least Back to the Future is ridiculous from the outset. Like, hey, it's a DeLorean. Looper, he tries to act smart about this stuff that's stupid. Like it's really poorly thought out, and I don't get that. No, Spotlight did not deserve the Best Picture Oscar. Not at all. So I'm glad you agree with me, man. That's awesome. I like The Mermaid. Didn't Stephen Chow make that? Is Stephen Chow the guy who made Kung Fu Hustle and Shaolin Soccer? Didn't he make The Mermaid and it made like $500 million or something? Yeah, Korean cinema, man. Park Chan Woo. Everything he's made is pretty much amazing. And I'm trying to think of some other directors. God, I can't think of his name right now. The guy who made I Saw the Devil and The Good, the Bad, and the Weird and Snowpiercer. I can't think of his name. He's great. He's a great filmmaker. I love his eye. Those Asian filmmakers seem to have a better eye. Yeah, it is poking fun. That's the thing that I don't. Yeah, when people, when I'm bringing up those flaws that Ryan Johnson had in Looper, it's not just because of the time travel plot holes that exist. It's that he indulged in them. He indulged in the time travel plot holes. I don't have an issue with the time travel movie having issues with that's just natural. That's going to happen. But he goes so into it, it makes it more complicated than it needs to be that his whole movie falls apart. And then in the second half, it just turns into like Akira meets Witness with Harrison Ford. It's like telekinesis kid with in a cornfield with this guy protecting him. The whole movie. It's really a sum of its parts movie. Where Brick and the Brothers Bloom are beautifully written movies with beautiful scenes and character depth, and they cut from the transitions are genius and the intricate plotting and all that. That's all I was saying is that Looper's this praised science fiction film that has great reviews. And it's his weakest screenplay by far, and I don't think deserved the reviews it got. It has great filmmaking. They've been talking about Adam Wingard remaking that movie for a few years, though. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Bong Joon-ho. Yes, host in Snowpiercer. Yes, he's terrific. Why did Spotlight win Best Picture? It got rave reviews. It was one of the best reviewed films that year. It had like unanimously like 9 out of 10s. It had a high level cast. Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, Mark Ruffalo, Billy Crudup. A lot of big name Roger Sterling himself. It was a period piece in a lot of ways that's going to hold up 20 years from now as a look at that time. It was about something important. It was about the Catholic Church and exposing them. It was about journalists exposing people. And this was in a time when Hollywood and the left and everyone really wants to defend journalism. And I Saw the Devil was by Jim Woon. So wait, what? Okay, so I Saw the Devil. That's the guy who made The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, though, right? He made that movie. Or am I wrong about that? Or is he the guy? Is he the guy that made Two Sisters, that ghost movie? Two Sisters and Memories of Murder or something like that. I saw that. God, it was an amazing film. Memoirs of Murder or something. I get a lot of these directors mixed up. Sorry, I know it sounds a little racist. I get these Korean directors mixed up, but it's their names are all like Kim Joo-woo or Wong Hu or Ho or Wook. Yeah, is the I Saw the Devil guy? Is he the guy that made? Okay, so he's the guy that made those horror movies. Okay. So now I know who we're talking. Okay, I got them mixed up. So the host in Snowpiercer, and then the guy who made yeah, that movie. If no one's ever seen that, is it called Memoirs of Murder or Memories of Murder or something? It is one of the best movies I've seen. It's an amazing film from this last decade. Um, I think it was made by that guy. But I was really into Korean cinema and Japanese cinema, and I was watching a lot of Takashi Miike. I was watching all his films, and I was really into Audition, and of course, I liked Old Boy and that whole trilogy. But that film's amazing. It's like one of those movies where you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, and the way it's put together and stuff. It's weird, over here we have David Fincher. Yeah, Memoirs of Murder, man, that movie is amazing. That is one of the best films. But yeah, those directors, they all remind me of David Fincher. There's all those guys that are great. David Fincher has that style with Fight Club and what I thought late 90s cinema and digital and a lot of the camera work and techniques. And then you watch these Korean films and Japanese films and they're amazing. Like the camera work, the editing, the writing, and they don't have all they're not worried about the MPAA the way we are. Their films actually deal with really dark stuff, and the filmmakers have unique styles, and they do crazy and the acting's next level, and they make the best thrillers. No, I know. I just don't want people to think I'm like, oh, they're all the same. I know they're different directors. I know different It's just they've all made a lot of movies. Like, these guys aren't guys who've made one or two movies. They've all made quite a few films, and they're all really good. So when you watch a lot of Asian cinema, you can get it kind of mixed up because you're like, man, there's a lot of really good directors over there. It's not just like there's one standout director and everyone else is, you don't know. There's a lot of good directors in the East, and it's like, wow, okay. I think some of the best directors in the world are working over there. Some of the smartest directors in the world are working over there. I would love if Fincher did a zombie movie like that. That'd be cool. What do you think about film soundtracks? Like, what specific film soundtracks? Like, or in general? Because, I mean, I love film soundtracks. I don't know. That's kind of a broad question. I'm not... God, I need to move up. I've been just answering questions. I'm ignoring the box office. Okay, The Snowman. Terrible drop, 65%, but it's at $30 million. Not a total bust yet. $35 million budget marketing. This is from acclaimed director Thomas Alfredson, who did Let the Right One In and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Apparently they had production issues. They didn't get to film like 20% of the screenplay. They didn't even have a finished script. The movie was kind of rushed and slapped together. Michael Fassbender, Rebecca Ferguson. Big, high level actors. Michael Fassbender's not putting him in the lead role in a thriller like this, awesome idea. Great looking cinematography, based off a popular book, but yeah, it's not performing that well. Okay. Same kind of different as me. This movie's just kind of come and existed for a little while, but it's not really making an impact. The Mountains Between Us is holding on okay, but still hasn't made a lot of money when you consider the budget of $35 million. And I don't know if Kate Winslet really has any box office power at all. It does feel like she's kind of like Hilary Swank won 2 Oscars and she can't open a movie. It's weird there's some actresses like that, Kingsman, The Golden Circle, Matthew Vaughn's very anticipated sequel to his original surprise hit that made $414 million worldwide and $128 million domestic, and when adjusted for ticket price inflation, made $140 million. But currently it stands at $377 million worldwide. The first film cost $80 million. This one cost $104. Let's say $105, just round it off there. So $80 million to $105. Domestically, it hasn't reached $100 million yet, which is disappointing. I'm assuming they wanted this to do better than the first film domestically, or at least around the same. Like $130 million would have looked pretty good. But the international box office is saving this film like it does a lot of movies these days, and it's almost past the original film's $286 million with $280 million, so it's very close. Oh wow, I hate when that happens. What books would you like to see done as a movie or a show? Jesus, that's a lot of books. While the DCU has a bad rap, as well as Schneider, I was doubting the film would make mega bucks with those weighing it down. Oh yeah, Justice League. Those early projections aren't good. They're saying it might open to 110 or 120 million. That's not very good. Um, that's not very good at all. For the context of it being Justice League and how much it's money's put into it and who's in it. Like if that movie opens less than Suicide Squad and less than Batman v Superman and all that, that's not good. That doesn't look good to anyone. That'll not ring. And if Thor opens to like 100 and let's say Thor Ragnarok, which is tracking huge, opens to like 130 million, that's going to really look bad on Justice League. So they need to try to get that up a little bit. I'm thinking some TV spots or something can help it. I can answer that book question a little bit later. Because a lot of books I love have been made into movies. They're just movies I didn't like. I'm a big fan of John Irving, and I like the Cider House Rules as a movie. But I don't think they quite got A Prayer for Owen Meany right with Simon Birch. There's a lot of movies. Dune's always one I wanted, but they did make a movie. A lot of books that because I don't think a lot of books would make good movies. A lot of times people are like, oh, this should be. It's like that wouldn't make a good movie. That's a good book. But Bonfire of the Vanities was one I think a lot of people thought would make a good movie, but I don't think you can really make a good movie out of the Bonfire. It'd be very tough. De Palma tried to do it. Thomas Wolfe, though, I guess they did do the right stuff, but I love Thomas Wolfe's work. I guess they did an On the Road movie too. Yeah, Benjamin Button is like Fincher's weakest movie. I feel so too. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, a lot of those books I've always wanted to be a movie got made into. I don't know. Infinite Jest would be interesting to see someone try to do. To see a filmmaker have the balls to even try that. Gravity's Rainbow, Thomas Pynchon. I would have probably preferred that to PTA, what he made with Inherent Vice. I think he should have just done Gravity's Rainbow. I think that suited what he was going for with Inherent Vice a lot better. Yeah, they made Naked Lunch. A lot of books that I would have thought, man, this would make a good movie. They made into. It's weird. Like I hate to be that cliche. I think a lot of them were already done. You have to look for obscure books. I didn't know what Gone Girl was. I never read Gone Girl, and I saw the movie, and I love that movie. So David Fincher, he had attraction to that material, and I guess Fincher says he's not really a big reader. So people have to tell him about books like Fight Club and stuff like that. There's a lot. The all-girl remake of Lord of the Flies. Piggy must. I think they're getting the chick who played Barb from Stranger Things to play the Piggy in that. Is what I've read. Really, God, I'm trying to. More of the Fleming Bond novels, actual direct adaptations like Casino Royale. I'd like to see an actual adaptation of Moonraker and the Man with the Golden Gun that actually follow the plots of the books. I would love to see actual Ian Fleming adaptations. I would like to see. There's so many books that I'm thinking like that wouldn't make a good movie. There's like Snow Crash. I would love to see that, but I don't know how you would make that. I know they're doing Ready Player One, and that's kind of almost a rip-off. And that, like Snow Crash, I would love to see, but I don't even know how you'd begin to make Snow Crash. Like that would be such a crazy movie to make visually, and to get that, it works so well literary. Like it works as a novel so well. Clive Barker. I'd like to see more Clive Barker adaptations. Magica, or something like that. I think Clive Barker stuff could be epic dark fantasy. I'd like a lot of pretty much his Harry D'Amour books and that stuff. I'd like to see Clive Barker in general. I think kind of got screwed over by Hollywood. Yeah, they made that 1984 one with John Hurt in the 80s, and it's kind of boring. It's not a bad movie, and it's like there's at least 3 sequences that totally capture the book perfectly, like when they get caught and the TV comes behind the wall and it's all that. But like, yeah, that movie's kind of slow. I think if you do 1984, if you ever do that, I think you'd have to come in with a different approach, not just with the story, but visually. You'd have to figure out, don't just do the book, because we know the book, it's there. It's a very well detailed book. You get it. It's like doing Animal Farm. You get it. You get it when you read it. You don't need it to be told in a movie. It's a great story. I wouldn't mind a new Watership Down movie with better animation. But there's so many. Yeah, there's so much. There's even Stephen King books that I think I would still like to see. I'd like to see a actual adaptation of The Running Man, not the movie we got. Even though I like The Running Man, I think the book, I would like to see a movie like that book. And I'd like to see The Long Walk by Stephen King. I think it's one of the best books he ever wrote, is Richard Bachman, and that never got made. Um, can't wait for Manson. The Manson. Oh yeah, when you said Manson, I was thinking Marilyn Manson, but you mean Tarantino's Charles Manson movie. My bad. I was like, Marilyn Manson's making a movie? What? Didn't he try to make a movie like 10 years ago and it just like it was in production hell? But anyway, Kingsman not doing bad. It's not performing on par with the first film, but that doesn't mean it's not doing well on its own. It's doing all right. The domestic numbers are disappointing, though. Like I said, poor marketing, lack of a villain as a presence in the marketing, mixed reviews probably didn't help. The word of mouth isn't great. Even now, it dropped 46%. Not that the first film held great, but it did have good word of mouth, generally. People seem to like Kingsman. Victoria and Abdul, 51 million worldwide, $17 million domestic. Stephen Frears film, doing very well, actually, I'd say. I don't think that movie's that expensive, and it's kind of flying under the radar. American Made, Tom Cruise, unfortunately not doing that well, even worldwide. 128 million worldwide on a $50 million budget. You got to include marketing and all that. The domestic total is pretty abysmal. It didn't even get close to its budget. It's one of Tom Cruise's lowest domestic totals. That I can think of. I think with Rock of Ages, but yeah, like Rock of Ages and this are low, and everything else. He usually stays around 80 million, 75 million. Yeah, look, Night and Day, Valkyrie, they're around 80 million. Jack Reacher, Oblivion. Yeah, all around. Yeah, unless it's a Mission Impossible film. But his films typically nowadays stay around a certain average. Back in the day, a Tom Cruise film usually made 100 million on average. But even going back, like without ticker price and ticket inflation, all that. But like Days of Thunder, Born on the 4th of July, all these movies, 70 million, 82 million. But this is one of his lowest performing films domestically, and it's one of Cruise's best performances, and a real return to that 80s Cruise that Doug Liman can tap into. And I think what he sees in Cruise that a lot of other directors don't. And I hope this movie is going to do better. I thought Stronger was going to do better, and I wanted it to, but somebody made a point to me. They said Stronger looks like the kind of movie you could watch at home, and I agree with that. That's really true. It's like Small and like a TV movie, but with a nicer budget and better acting. But you can watch it at home and get the performances. American Made, though, I think is a film that really could have been pleasing, like a crowd pleaser. But it seems like audiences don't want to go see adult films anymore. About adult stories, about stuff like this. At least I seem to feel that way. In the States, there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest for films like American Made anymore. Which times change. Maybe people just want the blockbuster. Do you have any thoughts on Final Fantasy VIII if you played it? 8? I haven't played it in years. I remember it being kind of broken. I can't. What is it? Bob Fosse? Is it Bob Fosse or Fosse? I can't. God, I haven't. Yeah, Cabaret and all that. Is it? I don't know. Is it Fosse or Fosse? I mean, it may shock you, but people have different pronunciations for names than what they're spelt sometimes. It happens all the time. It's very confusing with names in particular. Like, words, it's no issue, but like with names, someone's like, that's not how my name's pronounced. And it's like, well, it's spelt a certain way, but is it Bob Fosse? Did I get that? Is it Fosse? Isn't it Fosse? Or is it, did I say Fosse? Bob Fosse? That sounds rather fancy, I gotta say, Bob Fosse. It's not. It's As We Pay. Remember that Nicolas Cage sketch on SNL? Hey, I'm here. I have a package for Asswipe. No. It's As We Pay. I love that one. I also like Denny Villeneuve. Took me a while to get his name. I used to say Dennis Villeneuve, and but then I found out it's Denny Villeneuve. I used to be like, is his name Dennis Villeneuve or Villanueva? Then I was like, oh, it's Denny. thought forever it was Dennis, but I didn't know it. Yeah, he was a weird one because I remember when he was coming up like a decade ago, and everyone was talking about him, and I was like, they were like, oh, he's this French Canadian guy, and I was like, oh, cool. And now he's like such a big deal. It's so weird. Like I remember when he was just somebody that people were kind of talking about, but he wasn't a big deal, and now he's a really really big deal. Um, okay, let's see. It It is at 2.4 million. It's at 666 million worldwide. 666 for it. Halloween weekend. Could it be any better? 123 million opening weekend. I feel like this film might reach 700 million worldwide. That seems like the top off point for it. I don't think it'll make any more than that. It might even fall a little bit below that, but who cares? This movie cost $35 million, and it's made 323 million domestic. That would be a great worldwide total. By the way, would like to see Villeneuve or Alex Garland do one of those later books from Michael Crichton. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Alex Garland's a very good director. Was not expecting that. Very good filmmaker. Oh, Final Fantasy 13. I'm sorry. I guess I read it wrong. I thought it said 8. My bad. I probably didn't read it. Oh, that's a 10. Sorry, I saw that as the 5 of the Roman numeral. I saw the 5 and the 3. I didn't see that it was X13, X3. My bad. I read it wrong. 13, a terrible game. Hate that game. I mean, I don't. 20-hour tutorial. Terrible characters, bad dialogue, beautiful graphics, broken system. No, I get that. I read it wrong. I read it that you did like V3. I didn't see you did X. I didn't see that you had an X. That was my mistake. You didn't do anything wrong. That was my bad. I read it wrong. Anyway, it's made 666 million worldwide, 666 for the most successful horror film of all time, really. I always bring up The Exorcist, but we just have to. I wish it almost stayed at this total. This would be like the perfect total for it to stay at a 666. That would be hilarious and powerful. No, I know that equals 8, man. I was saying I read it as that, but I see now he wrote. Didn't he write? Did I read it wrong, or is that what he wrote? I don't know. I thought I just read it wrong. Or did he put the X on the original post? Let me see. Do you have any thoughts on Final Fantasy 13? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just read it wrong. That was just my mistake. I never finished it. Oh. Yeah, it's not really worth. I did finish it, and it wasn't very good. I think I finished every Final Fantasy game up till a point. I think that was the last one I finished. But I completed yeah, I have like almost 100% completion on 12 and 10 and 9 and 8, 7, 6, 5. Like I played all of those games through to the end. Let's see. Okay, let's get back to the box office. Jesus, we're like an hour here, and I'm not even at the top movies. But anyway, it goes without saying, huge hit. Now let's get to a big bomb this weekend, which I knew was going to bomb, but I thought maybe it wouldn't, as I didn't dislike the trailer. And whenever I saw the trailer in the theater, it got a big laugh. And that is Suburbicon. That is George Clooney's film that's based off a Coen Brothers script that was written in the 80s. And Matt Damon's in it as the lead, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Julianne Moore. One hell of a cast. 2,000 theaters, $2.8 million opening weekend. Those are not good numbers. I also feel like Alexander Payne's movie, Downsizing, with Matt Damon's going to bomb. Even though The Martian came out, not too long ago, and it was one of Matt Damon's biggest hits, and then it was his biggest hit, actually, and then Jason Bourne was a pretty successful movie. It seems like whenever he does these more art films or these lower budget films, not even this is probably lower budget film. But when he does that stuff, it doesn't seem to hit as hard with audiences. Like The Informant wasn't a big hit, or Syriana just did. It did good, but it wasn't a big. I guess people like Matt Damon in blockbusters and not so much in movies like this. But this film did get pretty bad reviews, and a lot of people say it's like one of Clooney's worst films and one of Damon's worst, and you could tell it's an old screenplay that needed reworking. And you know, if it was a really good screenplay, maybe the Coens would have already made it. What was rude? I'm confused. What was rude? Did I do something rude? I'm sorry. I did. If I did, I don't mean to. Final Fantasy 13. I hate when they don't say the budget, Suburbicon. Yeah, I don't know what the budget is on Suburbicon. I'm assuming it's like probably 20-something million or 30 million. I doubt it's that big of a budget for the film. Oh, no, I'm not saying I don't want to watch Downsizing. I love Alexander Payne, and I think the movie looks good, but I just don't see it doing that well. It might do well, but I have this weird feeling it's not a premise that's going to really sell with audiences and make a lot of money. I don't get me wrong, I think it looks good. Well, yeah, Clooney's not a big name as a director either. Clooney's a big name as an actor, but really all of his films, none of them have performed that well. Monuments Men did mediocre. He had to apologize for that bombing on the phone. Ides of March did okay. Leatherheads was a bomb. Good Night and Good Luck did well because the budget was low. They originally made that to be like a TV movie. But that's really his only super successful film financially. And the only two of his films that I really like are Confessions of a Dangerous Mind and Good Night and Good. Well, I like The Ides of March, but I don't love it. But yeah, this is definitely a disaster. That's not a good opening weekend. I don't know why they didn't go into limited release. Why would you just release that? Not a good decision. The Foreigner, Jackie Chan, 117 million worldwide, not doing that well domestically at all. $35 million budget, 28 million domestic total, $88 million foreign. But I'm sure they made a little bit of money on that. That can't be a bomb. I think they were hoping it might do well domestically, but it just didn't. You have Martin Campbell, the director of Casino Royale and GoldenEye on there. So, and Green Lantern. Only the Brave, a film I thought was going to do very well. It got very good reviews, great cast. It's the director, Joseph Kosinski, who did Tron Legacy and Oblivion. $38 million budget. It just seemed like the makings of a film that would do well, but, this genre never does that well. Even Backdraft wasn't a gigantic hit, and that's the most successful movie in the fireman movie genre, I guess, but, I thought this might be some kind of lone survivor type movie. Poor Miles Teller, man, having a rough time at the box office. Bleed for this, War Dogs, the Divergent series, Fantastic Four. I mean, he hasn't been in anything that's done well. And then he's in Thank You for Your Service, which comes out this weekend and only opened to $3.7 million. He's just having a rough time. $20 million budget on this film. Directed by Jason Dean Hall. Never heard of him. Based off a true story, I think. And, yeah, not doing that great. Buy some cafefe. Yes, I do. Yes. Yeah, you get the... It's... I love you wrote like cafefe. Cafefe. Is Suburbicon all about white families are evil? I don't know. It's a satire on, it's weird. The satire on suburbia and neighborhoods is really relevant in the 80s. Like Nightmare on Elm Street and Blue Velvet does stuff with that, and The Burbs. But yeah, I don't know if this movie is really... I don't really think we think about the suburbs that way anymore. I don't really think I mean, I think it's a movie that takes place... It's a period piece, but... Which is clever, I guess. That's the way to do it. What are your thoughts about HBO rebooting Watchmen as a TV series without Snyder's involvement? I hope it's good. I think it works better as a TV show than as a movie. I think as a movie it's really tough to make, and I think you'd have to cut too much. Jackie Chan movies make better on video. I guess that's true. He doesn't really make a lot of movies anymore, though, anyway. I mean, like, wasn't he retired from, like, doing stunts? Suburbicon bombed because it is a Coen Brothers film, and it should have been directed by them. Coen Brothers movies don't have that magic without their eye. I agree. When they don't direct it, there does seem to be... Somebody doesn't get what their humor and how to do their tone. And when he made Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, you could tell how influenced he was by the Coens and by Steven Soderbergh. Like, he pretty much just took all of his ideas from Soderbergh and the Coens, which I like that about that movie, but Charlie Kaufman's screenplay, I wish, you always think, like, man, what if someone else had made that movie? But very good movie and great performance by Sam Rockwell. Worth watching for that. Lone Wolf and Cub, man. Oh, Lone Wolf and Cub is so good. Or as someone else likes to call it, Road to Perdition. But Lone Wolf and Cub, I've been waiting for a good adaptation of that in the States. They've made terrific movies before that you can get now. I think Criterion released a set of them. But yeah, well, I guess yeah. But Fargo, once again, that's a TV show. You know, it's not somebody taking a screenplay the Coens wrote and then doing a movie out of it. It's somebody taking a universe they built and then doing a television show out of it with their own thing. I think that's a little different. I think you can do TV shows like that. Like if somebody said, "Hey, do you want to do it?" You know, even like it's like, you know, you can. I think TV's a better format to do that with than it is in a movie, because the Coens are film guys. They get how their movies work in a film narrative and all that. You know, they get film. TV's a writer's medium, so the writer gets to dominate, so you can flesh out those things a little bit more. What do you think of Charlie Kaufman writing for Chaos Walking? Oh, is he? Is he writing for that? I had no idea. I didn't hear about that. Cool. Is Evangelion to anime what Watchmen is to comics? If you mean in the sense that everyone overrates it to a point that it's absurd, then yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, Kafka. Yeah, Soderbergh's film. Actually, if you want to see a film, if you want to see a film that actually captures Kafka, watch After Hours by Martin Scorsese. I say Scorsese. I know it's Scorsese, but I just have a hard time saying Scorsese. But Martin Scorsese's film After Hours with Griffin Dunne, that film to me captures Kafka more than any other film ever made. Maybe like what his sensibilities were as a writer, and what Kafka would really like as a movie in the 80s. I think that movie is absolutely terrific. Great, a little gem by Scorsese, After Hours in the 80s. Amazing film. Might put it on underrated classics down the road. Terrific movie. But if you're a Kafka fan, that's the one I would go to. Because I don't think many films have ever really captured... it's like Ray Bradbury. Like, I love his work, but there's not a lot of movies that can really capture the tone of his work and what his writing really does. He's a writer that it's hard to really... Same thing with Kafka. I don't think Kafka's easy to capture. Yeah, After Hours. Got it. Yeah, got it. Yeah, After Hours is perfect. Is perfect at getting that. Yeah, you could tell Scorsese was influenced in a lot of ways. And I think it's one of his better works because of that. Because it stands out in his work. It's not just Catholicism and religion and it's a different view of New York. It's not his typical view of New York. It's more surreal, and less like just gritty and hard edged and like just underneath it you feel this hatred and burning and all that. But After Hours is more. It's got this underbelly, but it plays a lot with irony and humor in a way that a lot of his other films don't do. Okay, so let's keep moving on up. To the east side. Blade Runner 2049. $81 million domestic. I think we can safely say now this film won't make $100 million. You know, I would have never thought that. Even when I thought this film was going to bomb. Don't get me wrong. I thought, okay, but when I thought it was going to bomb, my thinking was... Okay, maybe 120, 115 mil domestic, and probably 300 million worldwide, if not a little bit more. I would have never thought it was just going to wrap up under like 85 million. Like, this is such an underperformance. Yeah, and then we were on the original Blade Runner bombed, and its legacy has probably been overstated. I don't think it's as popular as people. Like, you're even finding out, you know, a lot of people on Twitter are like, hey, I just watched the movie for the first time, or watched it for the first time in 10 years. You know, a lot of people. There seems to be a rabid Blade Runner fan base, but it's not huge. And I've never felt Cyberpunk had a big fan base in the States anyway. I think Cyberpunk is very limited to its own. I mean, I love Cyberpunk, and I love Cyberpunk video games and literature and movies, but I don't think it's that popular. But that's a theory, but I can't think of anything Cyberpunk that really broke out that like was universally popular across the board. Even Ghost in the Shell was always kind of a cult film. And I still think Blade Runner's a cult film. But $223 million worldwide, $150 million budget. They're claiming they didn't lose money on this because they split up the cost between Sony and Warner Brothers and different people. So from what I've been reading, they're saying they didn't lose any money on this movie, but they haven't made any money on this movie. But they're claiming this didn't like lose them money. But It's weird to think that they spent $150 million on a movie and then a huge marketing budget and they're not going to lose any money. I don't know how that accounting worked, but they did that with Luc Besson and Valerian. Apparently he had that all split up to where it made money. I'd have to find the article and break it down for you guys. I don't know all the facts of it, and I don't want to say something that's untrue so far. But what they're saying basically is the costs are all split up, and it's set up in a way to where everyone kind of gets their money back if the movie makes a certain amount of money. Instead of one studio putting all the money up front and taking a big loss. Because one studio, it's usually like one studio helps pay for the budget, or they split the costs, and a different studio does the distribution and releases the movie. There's a lot of facets that I didn't even know there was other people. I thought this was straight up just Warner Brothers, but apparently a few investors were involved with this movie. Gaiman and DC. Why won't WB make Sandman out of... one thing, Sandman would be very tough to make if you didn't do a TV show, and it would cost a lot of money, and you don't know... I mean, I think Sandman would be a very tough adaptation, personally. I think the reason they don't do it is difficulty and, yeah, the issues with the rights between Gaiman and DC, and, he should be directly involved with that, Really. I was sad that Silence bombed, especially since it was one of 2016 and best in his passion project. Yeah, that's... Is Adam Wingard the next Uwe Boll? No. Even as bad as Adam Wingard has become, he'll never be Uwe Boll. He's not going to rip off the government to get like $70 million to make these terrible movies. Couldn't find too many others to see Blade Runners watch it as a group, and 3 hours is just too much time to commit. It should have been released over a long holiday weekend like Thanksgiving. I think that's a fair point. I think the release date wasn't very well chosen. I get what they were... I get what they were going for, but yeah, it might have played better. I don't know if it would have played well this Thanksgiving. It's going to be a busy, but maybe they should have put it out there in maybe February, March, earlier in the year. I don't know. It probably wouldn't have made money no matter what they did, even the kind of film it is. Denis Villeneuve makes a certain kind of film with a certain kind of pace and tone to it, and I just don't think it appeals to mainstream audiences. I think Arrival did a little bit more because it had this emotional side to it that I think a lot of people got attached to. But Blade Runner 2049 is more like Sicario and Prisoners in that sense that you have to really... There's a lot of stuff going on underneath the surface. It's more introspective than it is, just like, here's I'm being sentimental, It's not that kind of film. And I don't know if the spectacle of it is enough to get on. Like, it's not a film that's driven by spectacle. I thought it was going to be like, wow, you have to go see this movie in the theater. But really, it's a tone piece. It's all about atmosphere and everything. It's not about indulging in the beautiful sets and visuals and lighting and all that. There's a lot of that stuff there, but I don't know. It's not like Life of Pi where it has all these special effects that are like, you kind of have to go see to see how great they look. I don't really know if 2049 is that kind of film. I don't think that's the kind of film he was trying to make either. They should do The Fifth Element as a TV show. The whole world would be fun to play with. That's not a bad idea. Bring in some writers and open that world up. Do more with it. I'm still waiting for Postal 2. Yeah, the great Uwe Boll to make Postal 2. Oh, come on. Okay, where was I at? Only the Brave. Thank you for your Blade Runner. Happy Death Day. 45% drop. 5 million this weekend. 48 mil domestic. 68 million worldwide. $4.8 million budget. If this keeps going this way, it'll be a little over 50 mil domestic, which is not bad. Not great, but not bad. And if the worldwide total can keep going up, this will make a healthy little profit. 2017 continues to be the year of the horror film. Horror genre films are killing at the box office this year. It is the year of the low-budget horror film. I can't think of a year like this where so many of them are making money. Like It making money, and Annabelle Creation, and Split, and Get Out. I mean, they're all making big money, too. It's not like they're like, oh, that movie did well. It's like, oh, that's a hit. That's a movie that makes over $100 million, domestically. All of them did that. That was crazy. Geostorm, 58% drop, $5.6 million. $23 million domestic, $136 million worldwide. God, can't believe they put the extra money into this movie and spent $120 million on it. The domestic total is terrible. The Lovecraftian cinematic universe. That's how I figured Happy Death Day would be. Not as bad as you think it is, but not good either. Yeah, that's exactly... That basically is how it looked to me. Yeah, it's not as bad as you think, but not good either. Great review. Jesus, yeah, I heard that they put more money into this to try to save it with international box office, but I don't know why they just didn't bite the bullet on a crappy looking special effects movie that people made fun of. Instead, they put more money into it to try and help the spectacle. So, this isn't quite the what was that movie called? Dante's Peak from the 90s, which actually has some of the best special effects I've ever seen in a movies in that film. But yeah, this isn't quite there. The disaster film I find is kind of a dead genre. Even the Roland Emmerich type films. But yeah, 136 million worldwide with that budget and marketing. I doubt they've made any money off of this thing yet, but they probably will end up not losing too much because it will probably perform well internationally and it could make $200 million if not more. The domestic total though is laughably low. It makes you wonder why they even made the movie, like how it even got past the pitch. Yeah, they did. They spent that much money on that movie. It's ridiculous. It's like, what's wrong with you guys? No, WB, wow. WB has that movie, and then they're the guys who released Blade Runner 2049. And I don't think they put all the money up, but still, there's like, God, learn how to budget your freaking film. WB's always actually kind of had that issue. The Harry Potter films were poorly budgeted. They went, like, some of the Harry Potter films cost $250 million. Like, Half-Blood Prince cost like $250. It's ridiculous. The budgets were so high. They spent way too much on those movies. The DC films. Oh, it's Fosse. Okay, yeah, Fosse, Bob Fosse. As I said, is it Fosse? Because, yeah, that's what I said earlier, because it's F-O-S-S-E, right? So it'd be Fosse. But I said Bob Fosse. Or did I say Fosse? I can't remember. I said it'd be Fosse. Oh, I said Fosse. But yeah, Bob Fosse, who unfortunately is a director I love and an artist I love, but I'm not a fan of Cabaret, and I'm definitely not a fan of Chicago, and he worked on both of those, and I'm not a fan of either one. For very similar reasons, but I do love a lot of his other work, and All That Jazz is a great movie. No, it's just weird. It's like, God, you're bringing up stuff from like 40 minutes ago. Shit. I can't keep up. Tyler Perry's Boo to a Medea Halloween. Not a terrible drop for a Tyler Perry movie. 52% drop. $25 million budget. $35 million domestic. I don't think it's going to reach the original film. The first film, Medea Boo Halloween. Let's see what its second weekend was. Its second weekend was $17 million. Yeah, a lot better. And its opening weekend was better. And that film ended up making $73 million. So I don't really see this doing that. I see this maybe not even making $50 million, to be honest with you. It seemed like this one was really front-loaded, and they spent a little bit more on it, and yeah, it's kind of just the same movie the first time around, so I don't think the hook was as much there. Let me see. Emmerich just makes film disaster. He made that Shakespeare movie, that movie about the guy who like said William Shakespeare was like, he stole all of his stuff or something. I didn't watch that movie, but didn't he make that film a few years ago? That was weird. It's like, I'm going to make a film about Shakespeare being a fraud. Disasters movies only work if there's a monster in it. That's a good point. Let's see. As long as Emmerich's around, disaster movies will still be made. I mean, I guess that's true, but they were made before him, and they're going to be made after him. That film, what was it? Deepwater Horizon. That's basically a disaster movie. A pretty good one too. It's actually a pretty decent movie. So let's get to the number one, which is what we've all been waiting for, and we're an hour and 20 minutes in, so we might as well talk about it. Much like last week with Tyler Perry, we have to talk about the entire context of Tyler Perry's career, the Medea franchise, the sequel, and all that. You have to do the same with Jigsaw. The Saw franchise is quite the thing. Years ago, Saw premiered at Sundance and really broke out, and everyone really... people don't seem to remember that. It was breaking out at film festivals before it became this big hit. And they originally planned on releasing it on home video. The film made by James Wan, who went on to have a very big career directing the Conjuring films and Furious 7, and is doing Aquaman now. And it was written by Lee Winnell, who starred in the first film and has gone on to have a pretty successful career too. And I still think a very decent writer. I still think these guys together were a very talented team. And I do like the original Saw. Yeah, Anonymous. That was the name of it, Anonymous. Yeah, I heard that movie was bad. I didn't see that movie, but it looked ridiculous. Of course, they only spent 10 mil. It's a Saw franchise. But the original Saw, they were going to release straight to video, and it only cost $1 million, and then they decided to go theatrically, release it theatrically. And the opening weekend was way above expectations, and then it ended up making $100 million worldwide on a $1 million budget. This led to the sequels and the Saw franchise. So we got Saw 2 the next year, which brought in Darren Lynn Bousman, and that film that cost $4 million made $150 million worldwide and had a $31 million opening weekend. The Saw franchise started to really kick in around this point. I'd say 2, 3, 4 was the peak of the franchise, like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where every Halloween Saw was hyped up. The third film cost $10 million, made $165 million worldwide, $80 million domestic. Each Saw film was doing really well. People were really invested in the story in a way they hadn't been with other horror franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. Even though those films did do really well, some would do worse than others. The Saw franchise consistently did well because it had a continuity, a convoluted, insane continuity. They got overwhelmed with flashbacks instead of telling new stories. But the original Saw, I still think, is kind of a thriller classic. It's low budget. It's got some cheap stuff in it. The cops, the guy in the car riding to meet them, and the twist is ridiculous. It's not really even a plot twist. You know, they don't even set it up. It's just a random thing. But the movie itself is really entertaining, and I think that stuff in the bathroom with the guys trying to get out is a very compelling movie. I like parts of Saw 3. Saw 4 comes out, doesn't do as well, but still makes $140 million. And I remember checking the opening weekend on these films, and Saw was like consistently a $31 to $33 million franchise. But yeah, Saw 4 comes out, makes $63 million domestic. Then Saw 5 is where they saw the first... Oh, whoops. Missed that one. My bad. Saw 5 is where they saw the first big dip. Where they had the same budget, $10.8 million. They brought in David Hackle. And it made $56 million domestic, which wasn't bad. Low budget again, $113 million worldwide. But this is when you started to see that the returns weren't coming in. And in my opinion... Saw 5 is easily one of the weakest Saw movies. Like, it may even be the worst one in a lot of ways. Saw 6, the sad thing about this film is that it has one storyline that follows this guy that was like an insurance guy. I can't remember what he does, but his storyline about being that guy and going through this, like, the shotgun carousel and all that stuff and people that he screwed over is a compelling story, I find. But the problem with the Saw franchise is they always go to these flashbacks on Jigsaw, and they forget to tell a new story in the universe. That's what held that whole franchise back. Let's see. Would have been cool instead of Justice League to copy Marvel if DC had set forth an Injustice movie with evil Superman as the big crossover. I still think they might do that. Maybe not Injustice, but I think they might do parallel universes in DC. I think stuff's coming. We're getting to that point. Or greenlight endless La La Land sequels. La La Land 2. But anyway, this one made $68 million worldwide. Now, because the budget was so low, it wasn't a big deal. But, you know, they knew the franchise was pretty much over at this point. But it sucks because Saw 6 has a makings of a good horror film. There's a lot of good stuff in there that I think could have been a lot better. And then you got Saw 3D, which was supposed to be the last chapter, I think. And that one made $136 million worldwide. It didn't do that great domestically, but it didn't need to. It was in 3D, and that's when 3D was really blowing up at the box office. That was the time of Alice in Wonderland and Avatar, and everybody was making 3D movies. So, wait, hold on, I'm sorry. On the time travel, rather than it being a problem with the writing. It is the problem with the writing, though. See, I don't think they get my point. You know, it's I'm gonna have to reply to this comment. It's like all of his plot holes are because of time travel, not because of. It's like no, there's plot holes in Looper that don't tie into the time travel. There's things he could have fixed with logical thinking. It's all filled with plot holes. I'd rather see Superboy Prime wreck everyone. Ooh, I like Superboy Prime mention. Nice. He's awesome. Saw better than Hostel. Well, yeah, Hostel sucks. And now we're at Jigsaw, which is this a prequel? Is this a prequel to Saw? About Jigsaw beforehand? I don't know. Could some of you tell me? I don't know if it's a prequel or a sequel. Because I know Jigsaw dies in the main series. He dies in, like, part 4. Um, yeah, this is not a great opening weekend, and the budget's a little higher than I was expecting. Oh, they have the Spierg brothers on this. Michael Spierg and Peter Spierg, or Spurg, or whatever their names are. But they've, yeah, you can't click on them. They worked on a lot of stuff. I didn't know they were making this movie. That's interesting. It's a sequel. Okay, it's a sequel. All right. I didn't know if it was like a prequel that takes place before Saw and it's Jigsaw's like origins or something. So this film's just called Jigsaw. It takes place 10 years. It's a sequel and a prequel. Okay. So it's pretty much all the Saw franchise. It's a sequel. It's a sequel with flashbacks throughout it that's a prequel at the same time. The Saw sequels, man, they get so bogged down with the flashbacks. So it's just like every other Saw movie. Damn it! The one thing that really ruined that franchise was that repeated thing of flashbacks with Jigsaw. It's like, don't do that. Like, they killed all the mystery of that character, and they forgot to focus on new characters and new. They seem to forget what made the original Saw work. Was that it was like this standalone thing, and then they couldn't let it go. They couldn't let Jigsaw go. But yeah, these guys are actually they've been working a long time. I think I met them at a film festival years ago. I can't quite remember, in Austin or something. But 16 million opening weekend, 16.2 to be exact. 25 million worldwide. Not great. Not that great, and it's gonna drop really hard the next weekend, and it already dropped pretty bad from Friday to Sunday. So they're lucky the budget's low on this. I don't think it's gonna have a big impact at the box office. I don't think it's gonna hold up very well after, especially in the way he made Alice in Wonderland. No, that's like this is the last way I'd wanted to see it. Like, holy shit. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, seriously. Oh my god. Like, I was just reading this comment, like, oh, Last Jedi, yeah, noir. And then I look, I'm like, oh. It's like Tim Burton's that uncle you have, right? Or that cousin or someone in your family, He's that friend of your parents who comes over to all the holidays. And when you're a kid, when you're young, Tim Burton's a good dude. He's cool. He made Pee-wee, and he made, Ed Wood and Beetlejuice and all that. And then once you turn 18 and you're a little bit older, he takes you to a back room and he tries to fuck you up the ass. And you're like, hey, Tim, what's going on? He's not totally, he waited until you were, like, older, but he's still trying to be a predator. You just didn't see it up front that Tim Burton was a predator. Yeah, I get a lot for that laugh. I hear about my laugh all the time. My girlfriend's always talking about my laugh. The Dragon Slayer. As much as I love Tim Burton movies, I would literally light him on fire. I mean, this Tim Burton just Spirited Away and Tim Burton. I can kind of see it, but it just doesn't. Uwe Boll doing Spirited Away. Okay, I would watch that. I would watch the big budget Spirited Away made by Uwe Boll. Okay. God, my mind's all over the place right now. Like, there's so many things going on. I don't remember this uncle. Maybe I blocked it out. No, I'm not saying that you had that uncle. I'm saying Tim Burton is like one of those uncles. I'm not saying you had that uncle. I'm just saying that, there's that cliche Uncle Ernie thing, from like Tommy, your evil Uncle Ernie who's messing with Tommy and all that. There's the creepy uncle stereotype. That's Tim Burton. He's your creepy, eccentric, gothic-y looking uncle who comes and tells you about his claymation and all that. And then when you got older, you find out that, he's kind of a fraud and he's really got nothing going on, and he's except for take out sexual perversion and replace it with hackery, and you have Tim Burton. When is Terry Gilliam going to make that Don Quixote movie? Like, is that ever going to happen? Hasn't he been trying to make that movie for like 20 years? Yeah, The Who. They have that song, Uncle Ernie. I'm your Uncle Ernie, and I fiddle all about. That's a weird scene in that movie, Tommy, and on that album that he has a cousin who tortures him, and then he has an uncle who molests him. Very awkward. Um, you think it's an extended prank, ironic metaphor? It could be. That's true. I wish he would just make an actual adaptation of Don Quixote. I would love to see that. I actually would love to see Terry Gilliam make that. And although God, he just doesn't seem to know how to make a movie anymore. He really lost a lot of his talent. Like, I haven't liked any of his films in years. I think Tideland was the last one I kind of enjoyed, and it's a mess. Everything else I think is pretty bad. And I love Terry Gilliam. Like, I freaking love Terry Gilliam. I love Time Bandits. I love Brazil. Adventures of Baron Munchausen's one of my favorite films. It's not just self-indulgence, it's ego. Tim Burton is so caught up in himself, which is self-indulgence, but it's not seeing the forest from the trees. He can't separate the Tim Burton stuff from the story and what the movie needs to be as opposed to what he wants it to be. Because he has an ego and he's been successful, and Alice in Wonderland made $1 billion. Even though it's one of his worst movies. You know, Ed Wood is one of the only films of his where Tim Burton feels secondary to telling the good story. You know. And yeah, man, that would be a tough film to make, though. I really would. Like, even for Terry Gilliam, with how talented he is, that just would be a tough film to make. You would have to find a way to structure it that really could work, and the language of it would be very tough too. It'd be very. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't do it. I just think it would be a very difficult film to make. I can't think of many directors that, you know. It's like when Kubrick was working on that Napoleon film, or the Aryan Papers, but the Napoleon film in particular, he read like thousands of books on Napoleon. He had little cards he could pull out to any day of Napoleon's life. He knew stuff that happened. He had this dense knowledge of Napoleon. And he wanted to film all this stuff in real locations, and he wanted the battle sequences to be like ballet. He wanted to do these choreographed battle murder sequences of the fights and all that. And so, I mean, he put a lot of that in Barry Lyndon, but I always wondered what his Napoleon. Oh, Brothers Grimm is terrible. So bad. People don't go and watch movies about old men generally. Yeah, one of my favorite movies, The Straight Story. Not a lot of people watch it. Yeah, I like Sweeney Todd. I think Sweeney Todd's good. It's definitely, I don't know if Tim Burton was the perfect director for the material, but he still made a good, I still think the original source material for Sweeney Todd's so good by Sondheim that it could just be great. I think Sweeney Todd's a good movie. I don't know if I'd call it great, but I don't think it's bad. It's definitely one of his better directed movies of the last decade, and I still think the original source material holds up in that movie. You know, he did things I wouldn't have done, but oh yeah, I agree. The singing's definitely what was one of the worst parts. But I still, man, Sweeney Todd's got some good scenes in it, man. The way he directs the Yusa, Tusa, welcome to the grave. How he does that sequence with the intercutting. And because in the play, he just walks out, and it's kind of, you know, you have to kind of imagine it. But the way Tim Burton cuts that scene up in that movie is amazing. I love that sequence. And how he moves the cameras around and all that in that movie and all that. I thought it was a very ambitious film for Burton, yet it was intimate. He used space really well. They're in these small little locations in Sweeney Todd at the top, and he makes it feel like a big room. And I just think the original score by Sondheim in the stories holds up that, you know, yeah, it sucks Tim Burton was the guy who made it. Like, good movie, but it could have been like a masterpiece had someone else really come in and done it. And a lot of people were attached to it. Sam Mendes. A lot of people wanted it. Russell Crowe was going to play Sweeney Todd at one point, which the singing wouldn't have been any better. It's unfortunate. Sweeney Todd could have been, like, perfect, and unfortunately it was also Tim Burton, so Tim Burton brought his Tim Burton stuff to it. Yeah, one of Tim Burton's best films, Big Fish. You know why it's a really good movie? Johnny Depp's not in it. Ewan McGregor gives this wonderful performance in that movie that's very lively and not quirky like a Johnny Depp performance would be, because Tim Burton cast a different actor. Like, everyone's like, oh, Big Fish is one of his best movies. And it's like, hey, man, I like Big Fish too, but you ever think, like, and it's got a lot of his same tropes, like Helena Bonham Carter's in it, but, like, it doesn't really feel like a Tim Burton movie totally. It's Tim Burton aesthetics, but the tone's different. And the way he uses the actors and tells this fairy tale, basically, is very different from the typical Tim Burton stuff. That's why I really like that movie. I think Big Fish was Tim Burton taking all of the stuff he learned over years and then and then going for actual heart and being sentimental, and which he always was with like, Edward Scissorhands. But Big Fish was a film with Ewan McGregor, and it's a father. He tells his son all these crazy stories, and they flash back to these crazy stories he tells, and you don't know if they're real or not. Like if he just made this, the son believes he just made the stories up, and the father's dying now. And then Tim Burton takes the story back in time and tells you these stories like if they were real. Like he meets a giant, he meets a character that turns into a werewolf. It's like a crazy story, but the whole point of the movie itself is about storytelling. And it's about stories having some truth to them, but fiction and all that. And it's actually Tim Burton, one of his only films to comment on storytelling, and he did that with Ed Wood. He seems to be at his best when he makes films about people like that, like the character in Big Fish or Ed Wood. He's good when he makes movies about storytellers or people that have goals or have those like even Pee-wee in a sense. The quest to get his bike back and all of that, there is something to that Tim Burton gets to explore, although Paul Rubin's writing on that and the humor is just what makes it. Yeah, I think Johnny Depp, you're right, Johnny Depp would have been a better lead than Mark Wahlberg in Planet of the Apes. That's a good point. I think that's one of those times so it's like, yeah, you're right, that probably would have worked out better. Johnny Depp would have been pretty good in that. Yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, no thank you. Anyway, let's get back to Jigsaw, directed by Bob Fosse. Jigsaw is not doing that great at the box office. Mediocre opening weekend. I don't know. Like I said, my mind's all over the place. I'm kind of scattered right now. I can't even focus. I think I need to drink a cup of coffee or something, get focused. I kind of slept in today, and I stayed up till like 5 o'clock watching Stranger Things. I only got like 2 episodes left. I started it last night and watched I guess I watched 7 episodes or something. I guess that's how many. So let me check if there's anything I missed real quick before we wrap this up, because I need to get my head together. Stronger didn't do that great. Home Again. Nothing really worth talking about. Turns out Leap isn't a German film like I thought it was. I guess it's a French-Canadian film. That's what I've heard. And yeah, it's not doing that well domestically, but it's doing very well worldwide, which is impressive. Wahlberg was bad in that movie for sure. I agree. He always claims he made it closer to the book, and it's like, not really. You kind of missed the book. I do need cafefe. I didn't have any coffee today, and I am Dale Cooper with coffee. I always have coffee. Speaking about failed filmmakers like Ed Wood, any thoughts on James Franco's upcoming Disaster Artist? I think it looks a lot like Ed Wood, and I think he was probably influenced by Ed Wood. Like, the trailer to me of the Disaster Artist just screamed Ed Wood. But I love Ed Wood, so I don't have an issue with that. I keep hearing James Franco's performance is, going to get an Oscar nomination, so who knows? Seems like people want to see more ghostly supernatural horror rather than torture gore porn for the previous decade. I think you're right about that. I think that era died off. I agree. I think that affected Saw. So I think that's why Saw's opening weekend wasn't huge. Also, this franchise they made so many movies of this already. This is just a cash in. The fan base for this franchise isn't there like it used to be. A lot of them will watch this on home video or television. So who knows, but it's what it is. I thought it maybe would have opened a little bit better or a little bit worse. 16 million's right in the middle, where it's not a great opening weekend, but it's not abysmal. Very strange. No real updates at the worldwide box office. Everything seems to be pretty consistent to where it was. Even War for the Planet of the Apes is still stuck around right under 500 million, which is really disappointing for that film. I saw that was on Blu-ray the other day. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. Yeah, that was the worst Oscar hosting ever when James Franco just showed up high. And it said he got hemorrhoids from that. He was on Howard Stern and he said that gave him hemorrhoids because he was so stressed. I'm just thinking about James Franco just sitting there high, getting hemorrhoids. It's amazing. That's actually fucking amazing. He deserves hemorrhoids for how shitty he was at hosting the Oscars. Oh, hi, Mark. Jimmy. Ben Affleck might also be affecting Jail's box office. I don't really know if that even matters. I think Justice League just has had really crappy marketing. The trailers for that movie suck. I don't know how anyone could think those are good trailers. They're not appealing. They don't have a hook. You don't even really know who the villain is at all. How's my sex life? It's been the same for 3 years since I've been dating my girlfriend, pretty much. Before that, it was off and on. But I've been in a relationship 3 years, so pretty much your typical relationship sex life is my sex life. Sorry, I'm not single and more interesting and have more stories for you. I'm actually I'm a relationship guy. I like being a boyfriend. Um, yeah, the Ring sequel didn't have clout either, so maybe there's a shelf life for these concepts. Would you call Sam Raimi's Spider-Man underrated now? I think it's being underrated. I think people are crapping on his Spider-Man flicks unjustifiably and overlooking the good things about them, and they're saying things that I don't think. That's just me. That's just my opinion. I get the problems with them. The CGI's aged like crap, and the actual there's flaws with them. They're cheesy, but I think people unjustly go after them. They have a lot of heart, and they have good action scenes, and I like a lot of the camera work and the pacing of them. And I still think Spider-Man 2 is like a great movie. Jailing needs to happen mostly during daylight, but really seems like WB wants to doesn't want to spend money on quality CGI. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, they're depending on built-in fans and iconography. So you can get away with the iconography thing with Star Wars in a lot of ways, and even the Avengers were able to get away with it with Marvel. But we've all seen that stuff now. Like, you can't hook me with, oh man, it's Batman and Wonder Woman and Super. I mean, that'll get 120 million opening weekend, sure, but there's no hook to Justice League. Even Suicide Squad had a hook. Like, hey, we're gonna put these villains together. Good trailer. Let's put all these. You want to go see that? That's a premise. It's a bad movie, but that Batman v Superman. That's your premise. Batman fights Superman. I can go with that. That's an idea. Wonder Woman. Okay, see this chick go from this island in the trailers and see her go to World War I and fight with soldiers. That's a premise. Their films typically have a hook. Man of Steel. What is Superman like if he was a real man? What if we treated him like an alien in a film like The Day the Earth Stood Still? All of those films had hooks. Justice League trailers are just, hey, it's the Justice League. Hey, it's Aquaman. Like, they should have more stuff like when Bruce Wayne goes to find Arthur Curry, he goes to get Aquaman, and he asks the people about him. That's got a hook to it, like, oh, it's about him putting a team together, kind of. But mainly the trailers have just been like, hey, the Flash makes jokes. Batman and Wonder Woman sit around and say one-liner. She smiles at him. Aquaman's like, yeah. Aquaman's James Hetfield from Metallica. They don't I don't think they did a good job, but they don't, like, Steppenwolf's the villain and they're not really presenting that in the trailers. Like, even the Avengers, it was like, hey, the Avengers is a collective of all of these films we've been working on, and Loki coming back with the cube and all that, all these things that we set up in Captain America First Avenger and with Thor and Iron, and they're all coming together for this movie. And Tony Stark was a very prominent, like, they needed Tony Stark basically in order to beat Loki, and Tony had this big kind of character arc in Avengers. They don't have the hook with, what's the hook of the movie? Is Superman going to come back? We know he's going to come back. It's not a trick. That's not good marketing. Marketing has to have something that makes the audience go, oh, I got to go see that. It's not just appealing to see Aquaman jump on the Batmobile and fight creatures with Batman and Wonder Woman in the flesh. That's not enough to get people going to the theater. So I don't know what they were thinking with that marketing. Because really, the marketing for Batman v Superman was great. The marketing for Man of Steel was great. I think the trailers were great. I'm confused why Justice League has such bad marketing. It's like they don't care. But anyway, Awful Venom. They do make the movie just look like one long battle. That's all it looks like, one long fight scene. You don't get a sense of the plot or the story or what the characters are going to be doing or what's happening, who they're fighting, why they're fighting. Like, there's nothing. Pat should make a video on Fantastic Four and Ghostbusters 2016 showing what happens when directors have too little or too much control. Man, I should talk about Heaven's Gate if I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. Tom Hardy's going to play Venom. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not big on the Justice League trailers. It's a lot of the same footage. It's CG backgrounds. It's Aquaman saying one line. They're not really giving you a sense of what the tone of the movie really is. What kind of movie is it? Is it a comedy? Is it an action film? Is it a serious film? Is it apocalyptic? Is it, I don't know. I don't really get a sense of it. It's all over the place. And that might have to do with rewrites, Joss Whedon, Snyder, Chris Terrio. There's been a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this movie, producers. But apparently the film originally was really long, and it's only going to be 2 hours. So I'm hoping that means Whedon just cut out all the fat from Snyder. Anyway, I think I'm going to call it a wrap up here, guys. I think I don't want to go too long over 2 hours, and like I said, I need to get myself together. I am like, what? Like, I can't even focus right now. I feel like I'm on drugs or something. I'm not, but it's what it feels like. But anyway, thank you for listening to Box Office Addict. I always have fun with this. I'm sorry if this was kind of a rough episode. We talked less about the box office and more. And I didn't really go into the budgets and marketing and all that. Why is it bad for MCU movies to be all fun, yet it was justified for DC to attempt to make all their films dark and gritty? Probably because Marvel has more films, so people see the cliches more, and they get familiarized to it more, and they get tired of it more, where DC has less films so far in that way. Maybe. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you guys. This was a weird Box Office Addict. But this is definitely one of my, the weird ones you got to get through too. Last week, man, what was with the hits last week? Like 1,500 hits on Medea too. Let's try to do that again this week, man. 1,500, first Box Office Addict to break 1,500. Great hits. But I love you guys watching. I hope you guys all have a good night. It warms my heart that any of you want to sit here and enjoy the box office with me and go on this journey with me. And thank you for asking me the questions. Thank you for correcting me on some things and giving me clarification. I don't want to just sit here and Google things while you guys are talking. I have to go off memory here off the live stream sometimes. But I make mistakes. It's okay. It's part of life. And also, remember, don't subscribe to Screen Junkies. Don't do that, please. Subscribe to Please Rewind. Me by myself is more content than you're going to get around than 6 people sitting at a table ultimately saying nothing. Let me get it that way. Yeah, just go back in time and fix it. That's right. I'm going to go looper some shit. But I love you guys. If you've gone on this journey with me, that means you're a box office addict too. And I'm here to indulge you in your addictions. I'm not here to help you. This is not rehab. Great chat, by the way. Everyone in the chat, killer. It was great to see some of my favorite people here again. And you guys might be like the best subs out there. A lot of people say my comment section is cancer, and I'm like, isn't every comment section cancer? But I think I have some of the coolest subscribers out there, and I think you guys know your stuff, and you make me better because of that. So yeah, and Screen Junkies, yeah, they don't rewind their VHS tapes, so. Screw those guys. I'm just making fun of Screen Junkies. That video they made talking about it was just so awkward. I'm just having fun making fun of them. I have no ill will towards them. They're doing their thing, I'm doing mine, but just like wow, that's a story. All right, yeah. All right, so I'm going to give you guys some outro music. Here is the Sharkfoot's Historian Expert, which is a joke that like an inside joke. But this is one of my favorite tracks from him that he just came out with recently. A little bit more, it's a little methodical and a little bit slower and got less going on, but I'll give you guys an outro with this. But thank you once again for watching Box Office Addict, and kudos to Jigsaw for taking down Medea. So once again, it's the white man holding the black man down.